Hey, how's it going, Nostalgia? This is Ryan from the Nostalgia Factor here, back again with another video for you guys for today. And for today's edition of Nostalgia Blast Reviews, where we take a look at the best and worst in gaming, we're going to be taking a look at the sequel to the original Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry 2. Created and released by Capcom back in 2003, Devil May Cry 2 is a follow-up to the legendary classic Devil May Cry 1. A game a lot of people remember to this day as being a fantastic classic. However, Devil May Cry 2 has earned its place in controversial games, especially controversial sequels, and after playing and almost beating this game except for the final boss, I can tell you that Devil May Cry 2 is not a good game. I personally heard many things about Devil May Cry 2, about how it's a disappointing sequel, about how, in comparison to the original, it is worse in almost every single way possible, and after playing through the game, and again, just about beating it itself, I can see where these people are coming from. This game is terrible in almost every sense of the word. Maybe that's a little bit extreme. Bland and boring comes to mind for a majority of this game, so let me just go through my thoughts about Devil May Cry 2, and why it's not a good game.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes. Now we can stop Arius's ambition.
Whatever.
But, actually, I do not deserve this power. Bring this to Mathieu for me. Please. I've got something that I need to take care of.
Now, one of my criticisms in my Devil May Cry 1 video that I did a little while ago was that there wasn't enough story content in that game, although it was serviceable enough for an overarching plot, and you know what? The characterization for Dante was alright. I thought it was fine overall. However, this game, there is no story. There is barely any mention of any characters whatsoever. There's barely any cutscenes. The dialogue for Dante is boring, and he's a shell of a character in comparison to the original game. The only semblance of a story that you even get is that there's this random evil businessman who gets evil powers from the underworld, and you, Dante, teams up with a random girl that you never meet in the series again, to my knowledge, and you have no context over who she is other than some mentions toward the end here and there. The story is bland, boring, barely any cutscenes. The main villain has 3 things of dialogue, and it's not even good dialogue. You know what, I'll even show you guys here after this just how bad this guy's voice acting is, but overall, the story is bland, the villain is bland, there's barely any story here to begin with, barely any cutscenes. Dante does not have the level of charming character that he has in the original game. Overall, the story here is just barely a thing. It's not good.
No! My dream! My life! I was going to be the king of this world!
King? Yeah. Here's your crown.
The visuals for this game are alright. It's nothing I can really complain about too much. The original had a better aesthetic, though, for journeying through a big castle and going to fight against the evil boss of the underworld, so to speak. So the castle aesthetic definitely had a lot of really cool environments for the original game that, although not amazing, definitely pushed the PS2 to some graphical bounds. This game has you running through different cities, has you running through different mansions and towers and different apartment buildings, it looks like. They're just bland, blocky environments. Walking through these various cities, other than the occasional enemy encounter and a boss fight at the end, there's nothing going on here. There's barely any exploration, wide open areas and city streets that you traverse through. There's nothing going on. It's incredibly boring and bland, and the graphic fidelity of each of these cities is completely the same. And I don't understand why the developers thought this was such a good idea when they had such a vibrant idea for the castle in the original game. But the cities are boring. The landscape is boring, period. The areas that you traverse through are nothing amazing. And again, the graphics are okay. I mean, they're not amazing by any means, but they're alright. And the music in this game's, again, okay. There's nothing amazing about it. I mean, some tracks are better than others. I like the battle music. It's atmospheric enough, I guess, but the music isn't that great either. There's boring pieces, nothing memorable. They are serviceable, but again, this stuff is just okay. you're familiar with the combat of the original Devil May Cry, then this is not going to surprise you, but the combat is basically the same. Same combos with your swords, same idea with your guns and your shotgun that you pick up throughout the game. It's the same basic combination, and it works well enough. The control is fine overall. I don't really have any major issues with it. I never personally had any hiccups playing it. Combat's fluid. Dante moves really well. The slices are really good and satisfying to execute. The gunfire and gunplay is really good to get good with. But overall, though, I mean, it's a very big downgrade because you don't have as many weapons this time around. You can't upgrade like you did before. It doesn't even have that satisfying little animation anymore when you go in there and you find an item and it spins around, then it leaves the screen as soon as you pick it up or select something. It doesn't even have that level of charm anymore. And the upgrade system is heavily downgraded as well. While you could upgrade multiple different pieces of armor and different parts of Dante's physique, like his jumping and whatnot, you can't do that in this game. Everything stays the same. You have 3 different swords you can upgrade to different levels, and they are expensive. You're going to have to grind through this game a lot in order to upgrade everything, and it's not even worth it. I barely upgraded any of my stuff, and I made it to the end of the game fine. There were some frustrating bits here and there, but, you know, overall you don't even need to go through the trouble of upgrading it. And I don't blame you, because again, the environments in this game are completely bland and boring to go through. There's nothing fun or interesting to do other than slicing through enemies. I mean, the upgrade system in itself, what made the first one so charming and unique, is completely removed now. It's just bland. It's just bland. Besides the okay visuals and music and the really bland environments, platforming being boring and traversal, the lack of a story and personality with Dante being abysmal to me, the one thing that I can think to muster to say about this game, besides the music and environments being okay that's positive, are the boss designs. I really do like the boss designs. I think that they had a lot of promise in terms of the execution of them. However, that's another big problem I have with this game. The bosses, while cool in design, are terrible to slug through. They are complete slugfests. They take forever to beat. The bosses are mismatched with their attacks. They soak up so much damage and ammo. There is no good strategy to hit these guys. There's either really cheap bosses that knock you around and kill you in one hit if you're not prepared enough. There's bosses that are easy to get through but are a slug to defeat. And frankly, I really wish there would have been more with these fights. There's no creative methods to take them down. Many of the enemies and bosses in this game, you just go and shoot multiple times. You dodge their projectiles and just keep shooting them if you can't attack them with the sword. That's all you do. They're boring, drawn out, pretty much like this game. That's the one summary that I can think of this game. A game that had so much potential that follow up from a legendary game such as Devil May Cry, which is a good game in its own right. Why is the sequel so bad? I mean, I don't understand it myself. I'm sure that that's something to do with the developer switch, which I am aware of. But unfortunately, even if that's the case, where a new set of hands is working on this game that hasn't worked with the Devil May Cry game, overall, though, this product suffers all the same. It doesn't matter who's working on it. Even if it was the same people, you can still make a terrible game. And, overall, there's nothing else for me to say about it. I mean, basically, Devil May Cry 2 isn't a good game. I mean, that's Devil May Cry 2, guys. I mean, you may have been expecting a more in-depth review of this, like past reviews I've done, and even Mission Impossible I could muster up more to say, because there was definite things to talk about, and it was far more unique in its premise. As bad as the game is, it's still unique in its own sense. This game is just a boring, bland follow-up to the original Devil May Cry, and I really don't know what else to say about it. The game's boring, it's dragged out, it's uneventful, it's terrible to slug through, there's no story, there's nothing to motivate you to continue, it's confusing, you won't recognize half the characters anyway, because there's no build-up to them, there's no dialogue, there's nothing to this game. It is just this feels like a Flash game in a lot of ways, and it has potential in some areas, but overall, Devil May Cry 2 is not that great of a game. I can't recommend you go back and play this. If you're curious, to check it out for yourselves, and I'm sure you've heard other people talk about how bad this game is too, but from my perspective, yeah, I agree. This is not a good game. I would recommend going back and playing the first game instead of this one. So, yeah, Devil May Cry 2, not great. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Devil May Cry 2 is not worth your time, I still don't think. It's one of those games that if you want a time killer, and a really boring time killer at that, feel free to slug your way through this game as best you can. Like I said, I can't recommend you go and play it, but you know what? Give it a shot if you're wanting to try it out in the Devil May Cry series, I suppose. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's review, guys. Like I said, I don't have much to say about this game overall, and yeah, that's about it for me. Literally, I cannot muster up any other words to say about this game. It's just that bland. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel if you want to catch more videos like this in the future. I'm thinking about doing a little bit of a mini-thon. There's an announcement that I want to make to you guys a little later on. I'll probably do it at the start of a review or something when June rolls around. But I think I'm going to start doing a little mini-thon after this video goes up of some Yu-Gi-Oh! Game Boy games. So look forward to that. And yeah, until next time, Nostalgics, this has been Ryan from the Nostalgia Factor saying, keep on gaming.